Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nur Izzati Maisra binti Biuli Muhammad. My ID number is DMF2007045 and I will be the presenter one.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Aizatul Syabradania binti Muhammad Said. My matric number BMF2007019. On this presentation, I am the second presenter to present this assignment.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Norisa Idaya bin Saizan. My ID number is BMF2007041 and I am the third presenter.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nadia binti Muhammad Rafi and my matric number is BMF2007022. So in this presentation, I am the fourth presenter to present for this assignment.
Sound corporate governance practices are needed in Islamic financial institution because to achieve the strategic targets set by ensuring application of best practices in internal control system. Islamic financial institution must have an adequate internal control system in place to ensure their safety and soundness. Internal controls are necessary for maintaining management oversight and fostering a positive culture within the organization. They are required for identifying and assessing risks as well as detecting and addressing weaknesses within the institution. All the director and team management play an important role to make sure the internal control system in the financial institution are effective. Next, to make sure financial institution apply best practices in Sharia compliance, Islamic financial institution most important obligation is to create trust in its depositors as well as all other market participants that its activities are truly Sharia compliant. They must get permission from the Sharia board regarding the Sharia comparability of all of their product and offer confirmation that all of their transactions are in fact compliant with the Sharia board's decision. The bank auditors and supervisor must ensure that none of the bank transactions are illegal. Lastly, corporate governance needed to ensure the financial institution practices in auditing. The auditor need to ensure not only the bank financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with professionally accepted financial reporting standards, but also that the profit or loss declared by the bank accurately reflects the bank's condition and that the profit was earned without violating Sharia teaching. Corporate governance is very important to Islamic financial institution because to make the bank feel confident in providing product and services to client without any errors, it also important because to make the financial institution realize the business goals and social objectives achieved.
Now we have reached to the next part, which is on this part, we will discuss about 14 principles of corporate governance, minimum standard and specific requirement. In BNN guidelines, they have 14 principles of corporate governance, minimum standard and specific requirement. Firstly, in Principle 1, there should be headed by an effective board which assumes specific responsibility. In Principle 2, should be an effective board composition with strong independent element. Principle 3, there should be a clear division of responsibility at the helm of an institution. Principle 4, it should be a formal and transparent process for the appointment of director to the board and the appointment of CEO. Next, Principle 5 that say, director must be person of caliber, credibility and integrity with the necessary skill and experience be able to devote time and commitment. In Principle 6, their board should be met regularly and be duty finished with complete and timely information. Principle 7, formal and ongoing assessment of the effectiveness of the board as a whole, the director and the CEO. Principle 8, there should be a formal and transparent procedure for fix their remuneration package of board member, CEO and senior management. Another next principle are Principles 9 that also say person empowering with decision making authority, including director, should exercise care to avoid situation that may give rise to conflict of interest situation. Principle 10, there should be clear separation between shareholder and management so as not to impact sound corporate governance. Principle 11, there also should be robust auditing requirement and the auditor Board and management need to maintain professional and objective relationship. Principle 12. Licensed institutions should engage in regular, effective and fair communication with shareholder or stakeholder. Lastly, Principle 13 that says, conducting corporate governance in a transparent manner can reinforce sound corporate governance. And Principle 14, Board is collectivity responsive and accountable for the veracity of disclosure and management of risk.
Next, for the background and establishment of IFSB. The Islamic Financial Services Board, IFSB, that is predicated in Kuala Lumpur was formally inaugurated on 3rd November 2002 and commenced operation on 10 March 2003. It is an international standard-setting body of regulative and higher-up agencies that have unconditional interest in guaranteeing the soundness and stability of the Islamic financial services business, which is outlined generally to embrace banking, capital market and insurance. In advancing this mission, the IFSB promotes the development of prudent and clear Islamic financial services industry through introducing new or adapting existing international standards in step with Sharia principles and suggest them for adoption. To the current end, the work of the IFSB enhances that the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, Global Organization of Securities Commissions and also the International Association of Insurance Supervisors. As at December 2021, the 187 members of the IFSB comprise 81 regulative and higher-up authorities, 10 international intergovernmental organizations and 96 market players. Malaysia, the host country of the IFSB, has enacted a law called the Islamic Monetary Services Board Act 2002, which provides the IFSB the immunities and privileges that are typically granted to international organizations and missions. Next, the mission of IFSB. IFSB's mission is to promote the stability and resilience of the Islamic financial services industry. The IFSB strives to fulfill its mission by publishing and facilitating the implementation of global and monitoring standards, as well as other initiatives that facilitate knowledge sharing and collaboration with. For the core value, first, we have accountability. Take responsibility for actions that influence credibility. Second, collaboration. Collaborate within and outside the IFSB to deliver quality international prudential standards for the Islamic financial services industry. Third, responsiveness. Be responsive to the needs of those we serve. And lastly, integrity. Act with honesty and integrity through a common set of values. For the objectives of IFSB, first we have to promote the development of a prudent and transparent Islamic financial services industry through introducing new or adapting existing international standard consistent with Sharia principles and recommending this for adoption. Second, to enhance and coordinate initiatives to develop instruments and procedures for efficient operations and risk management. Third, to encourage cooperation amongst member countries in developing the Islamic financial services industry. And last but not least, to establish a database of Islamic banks, financial institutions and industry experts. Next, for adoption of standards. Since its inception, the IFSB has issued 36 standards, guiding principles and technical notes for the Islamic financial services industry. The published documents are on the areas of: first, governance for Islamic insurance takaful operation IFSB 8; second, Sharia governance system IFSB 10. Governing documents. First, we have Articles of Agreement as at November 2018. Second, IFSB Act 2002. Third, IFSB Bylaws as at November 2018. And lastly, Guidelines and Procedures for the Preparation of Standards Guidelines. For IFSB 10, Guiding Principle on Sharia Governance System for Institutions Offering Islamic Financial Services. The objectives of IFSB 10, we have to facilitate better understanding of Sharia governing issues and how stakeholders should satisfy themselves that an appropriate and effective Sharia governance system is in place. Second, to provide an enhanced degree of transparency in terms of issuance. And third, to provide greater harmonization of the Sharia governance structures and procedures across jurisdiction. Next, this is the key element, principle and operational framework for IFSB 10. Competence, fit and proper criteria, independence, complete, adequate and timely information, confidentiality, strictly observe confidentiality, and lastly consistency, fully understand the legal and regulatory framework. For the functions, governance, board of directors, control, internal audit division, external auditor. For the compliance, regulatory and financial compliance division, and risk management division. For the IFSB 8, Guiding Principles on Governance System for Takaful Undertakings. First, IFSB 8 is the first standard to be developed by IFSB for Takaful industry. It focuses on the area of governance because understanding contractual rights and obligations of stakeholders in different business models of takaful undertakings are central and paramount. In the context of takaful operators, good corporate governance should encompass: first, a set of organizational arrangements; second, provision of proper incentives for the organs of governance such as the board of directors; third, compliance with the Sharia rules and principles. For the objectives and premises of IFSB 8, to provide benchmarks for use by takaful supervisors in adapting and improving regulatory regimes, reinforcement of relevant good governance practices as prescribed in other internationally recognized governance standards for insurance companies, to provide appropriate levels of consumer protection in terms of both risk and disclosure, a balanced approach that considers the interests of all stakeholders and call for their fair treatment. For the application, first, the guiding principles shall apply to all takaful undertakings irrespective. Second, apply to all operational models adopted by takaful undertakings. Third, their aim should be to implement governance structures and processes so as to be on par with. IFSB carried out its own survey and stock-taking exercise to verify its understanding of various takaful models being used around the world. The most frequently used models are Mudharabah, Wakalah and Wakalah Mudharabah models. For the Mudharabah model, a contract between the capital provider and skilled entrepreneur. Capital provider will contribute capital to an enterprise or activity that is to be managed by the entrepreneur as the Mudharib. The profits are shared in accordance with the terms of the agreement, and the losses are to be borne solely by the capital provider unless due to the Mudharib's misconduct or breach of terms. For Wakalah model, takaful participants appoint the takaful operator to carry out the underwriting and investment activities on their behalf. And lastly, Wakalah Mudharabah model. It is a takaful hybrid model relationship between the operator which combines the role of entrepreneur as well as the wakil. Latter in the capacity as both provider of capital or sahibul mal and principal to agent. Agency fee can be remunerated as upfront charges from the takaful fund. have the right to profit sharing on returns on the investment of the Takaful Fund in accordance with Mudharabah contract.
Objective of IOFE. First is IOFE is to develop accounting analytic governance and ethics that can relate to the activity of Islamic financial institution into the considering the international standard and practice that compile with the Sharia rules. Other than that, IOFE also disseminates the accounting, auditing, governance and ethics in the Islamic institution activity that they can application through the training, seminar, publication of newsletter, report, research and other means. Other than that, they also want to improve the quality and the uniformity of auditings and the governance practice to relate in the Islamic financial institution. Not only that, they harmonize the accounting policies and procedures adopted by Islamic financial institution. And then, the IOFE want to achieve the concept of application among the Sharia supervisory rights of Islamic institution to avoid contradiction and inconsistency between the fatwas and the application by this institution. Other than that, to carry out the activities including the certification of a compliance of IOFE standard, they gain wider awareness and acceptance of IOFE. Then, to approach the concerns of the regulatory bodies, Islamic financial institution and accounting and auditing firms to implement the standard as well as the statement and guidance that will be published by IOFE. Next objective of IOFE also offer the educations and training program that include the professional development program on accounting, auditing, ethics, governance, Sharia and the certification shows be up by IOFE itself in coordination. Next, we move to the adoption IOFE standard. In this adoption IOFE, they have divided by the two parts, which is the first part is the Sharia standard. What is the Sharia standard? In this adoption, IOFE Sharia standards are adopted as a mandatory regulatory requirement in many countries and jurisdictions across the globe, such as Bahrain, Jordan, Nigeria, and Pakistan. And also, in the Sharia standard, the parts of IOFE Sharia standard are followed by numerous Sharia Islamic finance, education, Sharia consultancy, training, and non-banking in countries such as Kazakhstan. Next, we move to the second part of the adoption IOFE standard, which is the accounting standard. In the accounting standard have also been used as the basis of developing national accounting standard in the jurisdiction such as Indonesia and Pakistan. And then, in the accounting also, in this accounting standard also, apart from regulatory institution IOFE Sharia standard, that are followed by numerous Sharia consultancies, auditing firms, Takaful companies, non-banking financing companies, capital market institution, and Sharia scholar and professional around the globe. So, this is the last part of the adoption IOFE Sharia, which is auditing governance standard in the codes of ethics. IOFE auditing that covers followed by the Sharia consultancies, auditing from Takaful or insurance, non-banking, and the Sharia scholar professional around the globe. So this is the extra information to us. Malaysian adoption with the IOFE online. In Malaysia, IOFE is not approved by the financial reporting institution, but have a sum of IOFE produced financial reporting standard specifically for the Islamic transaction by the Islamic financial institution. Some of the Islamic financial institutions across the world adopt IOFE financial reporting framework. Entities in Malaysia, including Islamic financial institution, adopt the Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard MFRS or Malaysian Private Entities Reporting Standard MPR.